And so this is a story of rock and roll youth who are in trouble with the law. The basic first scene starts off with the band playing very loud music in their apartment. And you see dirty dishes all over the place. You see kind of like the terrible conditions that these youth are playing in. And then you hear this bang, bang, bang at the door. And you see the landlord banging harder despite the extremely loud music that's making it hard for them to even hear the door. Finally, the band hears a door and they open the door. And the landlord yells, "You got to shut up! You got to stop making this extremely loud music." Um, and he's essentially like throwing them out of the apartment, giving them 24 hours notice. The youth are like, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do?" And they realize that, well, they're goners anyway, so they might as well have their last party. And the next scene is in the party. Now, I've taken the Beastie Boy clip just to kind of give a sense of the craziness of the party that comes along. Um, and the landlord can't stand this either. He comes back in his car, driving up, and climbs up the stairs, and he starts throwing all the stuff out the window that the youth have in the apartment, despite the huge noise of the party and so on. And the one of the things that is actually burning is a couch, and that gets thrown out the window and lands on top of the landlord's car, and the landlord's car blows up. So now the youth are on the run, and you see them running and running from the police, and finally they run into a building that says NASA on it. And, well, lo and behold, they end up taking a rocket ship into outer space. And in outer space, they make friends with the astronauts there. And the astronauts, because they're rock and roll fans, let them play their musical instruments, which they just happen to have stored in the rocket ship's storage lockers. And there's also at the same time a war going on, a space war between China and India. But because the music is so great that's coming out of the rock and roll, now NASA rock and roll ship, the end of the movie is essentially the huge party scene in outer space. But because the music is actually being shown all over the world and broadcast all over the world, it causes world peace, and the youth are heroes because of that. The space war that was going on between China and India is finally resolved, and people are so happy around the world. But then the very last scene is aliens coming in, and just like the landlord, they can't stand the loud ruckus, and so they force the youth to shut up by shooting their alien space guns at them. So that's the end of the movie.